Hello there, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters. And yes, I am back. I am back with a couple of reviews of films that I really wanted to talk about. For those that do not know, I've had a week or so away just to clear my head, just to have a bit of a break from the world of YouTube, to gather my thoughts and work on myself a little bit, and brick by brick, piece by piece, I will get there. So for now, this is just a quick little review that I thought I'd put together because it's a film that I've seen that I really, really wanted to, talk about. But if you haven't seen it, I did put a personal blog out there, which will talk about a little bit of the things I've went through. Check it out if you wish. If you don't, that's fine. That's okay. But for now, like I say, brick by brick, piece by piece, I'm getting myself back together, and I thought, why not start off by doing a review of this movie that I really, really, I'll be honest, enjoyed. It was better than I expected it to be, and it was a real treat. So here we go. We are here to talk about Gladiator 2. Now, with Gladiator 2, Ridley Scott, the first Gladiator that came out all the way back in 2000, it launched the career of Russell Crowe. It basically made him a worldwide name, and he's had such an amazing, successful career since then. Now, that film stands out for a number of reasons, not only because it was, an Oscar movie, not only because it was an amazing epic historical drama, but it had an amazing music score. It also had amazing cinematography, and it had a character that you believed in the character of Maximus. And you went on his journey, and by film's end, if you've seen it, you know what happens. If you haven't, you need to check Gladiator out. It just was such a thrill ride and such an emotional journey from start to end. Now, with that said, when you get to Gladiator 2, the era that we're living in Hollywood, if it makes a quick buck, we have to throw a sequel out there. When it comes to films like Gladiator, which you thought was a one and done, it's like, do you need a sequel? Do we want a sequel? Or do you just leave well alone? Now, sequels fall into three categories for me. They fall into either we do not need them, we do not want them, and they end up being a complete disaster. Or you get sequels that are respectable of the original. They're not as on the level of the first movie, but they are still entertaining, they are still fun to watch, and they are respectable. And then the third category, which is very rare that it happens, you get a sequel that will surpass the original in terms of popularity, story, character building, and it's just an epic movie that surpasses the original. And there's only been a handful of movies that's done that. Aliens, Terminator, they're the two that spring to mind. Terminator 2, sorry. They're just two that can jump straight in my head. Oh, most recently, Top Gun Maverick. Top Gun Maverick for me is better than the original. But they are very rare to come by. So when it comes to Gladiator 2, did we need it? The answer to that simply for me is no, we did not need Gladiator 2, but just like with Ridley Scott did with the Alien franchise, he had this idea for a prequel and he brought it to life. Was it as big or as popular as the original Alien or Aliens? I don't think it quite hit the mark, but it's his vision, it's his property, it's something he wanted to do. And now he's back with Gladiator 2, which is, set a few years after the events of the first Gladiator. Now, with Gladiator 2, The story is much more fast-paced than the first film. It is much more heavy in terms of action. The drama side of the movie, it doesn't quite hit you the way that it hit you in the first film. The lead in this movie, is he as successful as Russell Crowe? I would like to think not. I don't think he quite, I gravitated towards him as much as I did with Russell Crowe. But let's get into it and talk more about it in detail. So here we go with Gladiator II. Gladiator II is a 2024 epic historical action film directed, produced by Ridley Scott that serves as a sequel to Gladiator from 2000. Written by David Scarpa from a story he wrote with Peter Craig, the film was produced by Scott Free Productions and distributed by Paramount Pictures. It stars Paul Mescal, Pedro Pascal, Joseph Quinn, Fred Hechinger, Lior Raz. Sorry if I'm butchering the names. I have a tendency to do that. I do apologize. Derek Jacobi, Connie Nielsen, and Denzel Washington. So that is the film. So what is the film's plot? So the plot of the movie is as followed. So Mescal portrays Lucius, whose home is invaded by the Roman army led by General Achaeus. He seeks revenge against Achaeus and fights as a gladiator for Macranius. So this is what's going to fuck me up a lot in this review, is you've got all these isses and risses in names. So that's going to fuck me up big time, but I'll do my best to talk about it. Former slave who plans to overthrow the emperors Geta and Caracalla. So that's right. He seeks revenge against Achaeus and fights as a gladiator for Macarius, and a former slave who plans to overthrow the emperors Geta and Caracalla. So straight away, you have playing Lucius, who is the young son of Connie Nielsen's character, Lucilla, in the first one. He is played by Paul Mescal, and you know what? He's an amazing actor. I do believe he does his very best to deliver in this. But for me personally, when it comes to his performance, he's not the hero on the same level as the hero of Maximus in the first movie. I don't think he delivers what you expect from him in this one. He seems a lot more angry in this, a lot more bloodthirsty in this, where when it came to Russell Crowe's Maximus, he was much more calmer. He wanted revenge, but he did it slowly, and he also was a thinking hero. Where I think in this one, Lucius, he uses his anger to fuel him to go against these two emperors and Achaeus. I think I've said his name, Achaeus, who's played by Pedro Pascal, who is the general of their army, who they are trying to take over the world. And they are much more tyrannical than the emperor that Joaquin Phoenix played in the first movie. In the first movie, Joaquin Phoenix's emperor was the new emperor. He literally murdered his father, took over the emperor, wanted everybody to love him, but underneath it all he was this insecure little petty boy. That's how I describe his character, as this pathetic little petty boy with anger issues, insecurities, and he used it to fuel his rage and to do terrible, terrible things, including killing Maximus's family. Now, in this one, the action and the pacing of this movie is on a different level. I found that the first movie was steadily paced from start to finish, where you see Maximus's journey from and being this general to then, being double crossed to then being put into slavery to then making him his way to the Colosseum to then gain the people's love and trust to then him overthrowing the emperor to then him meeting his end and returning to his family in the afterlife. This movie, it moves at a lot faster pace to get you from A to B and to basically get you inside that Roman Colosseum as fast as possible. And during this time, there's a lot of amazing action sequences. There's a lot of great, moments with Lucius meeting his wife, who is also, I guess, a fighter, a part of the army, who meets her and thanks to General Achaeus, who's played by, Pedro Pascal. And so straight away, that is Lucius's, that's his motive. He now is captured himself. He is now put into slavery. He now has to train to become a gladiator, to go to the Colosseum, to entertain these two tyrannical emperors. So the plot is very similar to that of the first one, except it's very much pushed faster and forced upon you in such a fast-paced level. And the action is 10 times that of the first movie. The action for me, there's a lot of amazing action sequences, but there is some action sequences that I think that weren't needed, that were forced upon we, just to basically say, here we are. The second movie, we need to make everything bigger, badder, faster. And so, of course, they have a sequence with sharks where they fill the Colosseum with water. There is a sequence with these baboons where they are training the gladiators right at the beginning of the movie, and they use baboons to fight, to train with the gladiators, which I thought was a bit over the top and wasn't necessarily needed. We have a scene with a rhino, which for me, I did enjoy this sequence that we had. The first one we have tigers, this one we have a rhino, and I do really enjoy this sequence. It's probably out of all of the over top sequences within the Gladiator 2, this is probably the one that I do enjoy. As for the cast, like I say, Lucius there, he is a strong character, but he doesn't quite really get there for me in terms of pulls me in emotionally the way Russell Crowe's Maximus did. Connie Nielsen is back as his mother, Lucilla, who is actually married to the next character, who is married to, I keep on getting his name right, name wrong. Achaeus, I keep calling him. I'm probably saying it wrong, but that's how I can say it. Achaeus. He is basically a really tired, really emotionally drained and physically drained general for these two tyrannical emperors, who is Caracalla and Geta, who are just complete and utter horrible, nasty people. You just don't enjoy them. I did not enjoy them. Joseph Quinn, who was also another rising star thanks to his performance in Stranger Things, he really, really, captures the screen and is the smarter of the two emperors. And he does everything in his power to make you basically dislike him. And he plays Emperor Geta. And then you have Fred Hechinger, who plays Emperor Caracalla, who clearly has some sort of mental disability. He's clearly not there. And they are ruling the Roman Empire, and their goal is to conquer the rest of the world. So General Achaeus, who is married to Lucilla, basically they are there to push him as far as he can go, and he's absolutely exhausted. You do have great sympathy for his character throughout this movie, as well as that of Lucilla and, of course, Lucius. Them three characters actually aren't villainous. They are there to, it's that's where the emotional turmoil comes into it, because you want to support Lucius in getting revenge for the murder of his wife, but at the same time you have these emotions for Lucilla, who had to give up her child and put him into hiding because of events that transpired, which you will see in flashbacks, which I will not spoil. You will see some flashbacks and you'll see the reasons why she had to give up Lucius. And so she's at an emotional turmoil, because at the same time as she wants to support her son, get revenge, and to do the same things as Maximus, climb the ranks of the gladiators and to gain the support of the people, his overall desire is to kill her husband, who is Achaeus, who is the general of the Roman army. And, that is the emotional turmoil throughout this film. That is the drama that transpires. When they're fighting together, you feel every swing of the sword, you feel every emotional moment, and you just don't know who to root for, which is probably one of the killer points of this movie. This is one of the point of this movie that stands the difference between the first movie and the second movie, because you have these two characters that you form a bond with, and in the middle is Lucilla, Connie Nielsen's character, and then you have the two tyrannical empires that are basically could not give a shit. They just want entertained. They are cruel. They spread fear, and people are wary of them. And then you have one more character, and that is the star of the show. And that is, of course, Mr. Denzel Washington. Now, just when you thought you had these two tyrannical emperors who are basically running the show and causing all of this aggro and grief and pain, and you then have Denzel Washington's character, who is called I'm going to try and say his name right. He's called Macreus. Macreus, who was a former slave who has now built himself up to be a tradesman, to be he trades gladiators, he trades weapons. He also has, spies all over the place. He has his head in every pie within the Roman Empire. And he's very intelligent, he's very cunning. He is the main star of this movie in terms of what he is able to achieve. And it's just terrific to see. And I've heard a lot of buzz when it comes to the Oscars, when it comes to this movie for Denzel Washington. And if he doesn't get nominated for an Oscar for his role as Macreus, I think that's his name. I am sorry if I'm saying it wrong. I would not be surprised. And if he does get nominated, he does deserve it, because he is the highlight of this movie. He is the star of this movie. So when you've got Lucius, who is trying to get revenge on Achaeus, and you've got Lucilla in the middle with all this turmoil. You've got the two tyrannical emperors. Then you've got this cunning, conniving, middle boss who becomes the top boss with Marquis, played brilliantly by Denzel Washington. You know what? It is a great plot. It is a fun plot. The plot is great. The action is great. It's faster paced. The cinematography is amazing in this. But there's just something missing. And for me, the thing that is missing is it does not hit you the way the first one did. The first one was slower paced. They've made more emphasis with Maximus. You really fell for Maximus, and I don't know if it was just the charm of Russell Crowe's performance, but there was just something about the first movie, and I don't know if it's because it's a test of time thing, the fact that Gladiator 1 came out so many years ago and people are just generally connected to that movie. And so older audiences, like a lot of things, you get a lot of people that will watch a sequel and go, well, it was fun, but it wasn't as good as the first one. You hear that a lot, and maybe that's what's happening with Gladiator 2. For me, it doesn't hit me emotionally the way the first one hit me. There is something about these characters that, yes, I enjoy, but I am not as invested in them as I am with the characters from the first Gladiator movie. There's something missing. What it is, I don't know. The music score in this movie, the movie music score is fun, but it's not as epic as the music from the first one. Music in films go side to side. The score can be just as important as the film itself. And for me, when it comes to this particular movie, the movie score, it's fun, it's great, but it doesn't get me the way the first movie score from the first Gladiator did. And you can feel that throughout this. You can feel it. They do have moments where they add snippets of the original movie score in this, during where they talk about Maximus. Maximus isn't there physically, but you definitely feel his spirit all around within the confines of this movie. So the score's there. The spirit of the first movie is definitely in this. It's faster paced. The action is put up to a 10. The cast is really good in this. The casting is brilliant in this. But the hero, Lucius, just doesn't give me what I got from the first movie. And that is all I can really say. Epic score, better action, or bigger action, faster paced. It tries its best to get you in the heart the way the first movie does, but that is what's missing from this. What's missing from this is the heart that the first movie had. And it's a movie that is a sequel, that is a respectable sequel, but for me personally, it is not a movie that is as good as the sequel. Like, it's very hard to top a movie that was made with this certain kind of passion, this certain kind of drive, that when they made it, you could tell there was nothing but passion behind it. This movie, there is the same kind of passion and drive, but for me, even though it has the same passion, it has the same drive as the first movie. Like I keep saying, there's just something not quite right. There's something missing. And the way this movie ends, it's clearly set up for a third film. I've heard through the grapevine that Ridley Scott has already got plans to do a Gladiator 3, and that basically he wants to make these movies his Godfather. Will he succeed? Probably will. The first movie will be probably considered the best of the trilogy. This movie would probably be considered, a respectable sequel. The third one, we'll just have to wait and see where it goes, in the direction that it goes in. I do think if he does a third one, he really needs to build on the Lucius character and give him more heart. Because, like I say, Maximus, with him, he was a veteran general within the Roman army who had years of experience, who knew how to work authority figures and knew how to gain trust and knew how to play the game. In this movie, Lucius just comes across very angry and just wants to fight his way to victory. And it's not till the end of the movie where you do see this moment of him change, where he kind of gains like this inner peace, and he kind of, all that anger fades to the side and he gets a bit softer. And that's what I did enjoy about this. And I hope the take from this from that direction, and they use that forward. And I could see the third movie really what's the word? Really, capitalizing on those moments that you had right at the end of this one. But yes, if I'm going to rate this, I'm going to rate this, and I think it deserves it. It deserves it for it is a respectable sequel. It deserves it because it has great action. It deserves it because the cast are really good in this, and especially Denzel Washington. He is the VIP. He's the one who steals the show in this. He's Oscar worthy in this. So I'm going to rate this quite high, and I'm going to give this a solid 9 out of 10. Despite it not feeling or having something missing that the first one had, it's still one of those sequels I generally believe that down the line and down time will be very much well respected, and will get it's not as good as the first one, but it is good. I can see a lot of people saying that about this movie. And that's it for Gladiator 2. Sorry if I butchered the names. Sorry if, I spoke too fast and tongue-tied and all that. I'm just getting back into the game when it comes to reviews. And like I say, this is just one of a couple of reviews I just wanted to quickly get out there. And then I'm quickly going to disappear again for a little while and come back probably just before Christmas with some good content for you guys. But this has been the Entertainment Headquarters. This has been another review. And like I always say, keep on enjoying your movies. Keep on enjoying all things entertainment. And I'll catch us all at the next one.